Welcome to the One More Boom podcast, where we are a different breed. This is more than just a space for oil field and pipeline professionals. It's a community built for those who refuse to settle for the ordinary. You're here because you're ambitious, resilient, and driven to excel. At One More Boom, we're both more than just work. We're both thriving under pressure, breaking new ground, and pushing limits. This is your place to connect, learn, and grow with others who live for the challenge. You're not average, you're a different breed. Welcome to the One More Boom community.
All right, Shawn, we're back with One More Boom podcast.
Yeah, baby.
Last week we dove into Nick's brain a little bit and where I came from and what I'm doing, and yeah, this week we want to learn a little more about you.
Can we just go back to you?
I mean, sure, we can deflect. Sure.
This got called on my shit. This got called on my shit right there.
No, it's so good. No, I really loved the questions that you asked last week and kind of diving down. And yeah, my brain is a lot like everyone else, but once you start picking at it, it's really interesting. So I'd love to pick your brain a little bit on where you came from, how you ended up where you are now, and I know that it's not a straightforward journey, and it's not a boring story. I'm pretty sure. So,
now you know where to start. Then I guess I'll start like way at the beginning.
Yeah.
Born in Edmonton, moved to Vancouver Island as a young child. Lived with my aunt and uncle till my parents kind of got their feet under them, and then they bought a place. Went to school there. I left home when I was, if you want to be honest, I left home when I was 6 once.
It doesn't surprise me.
Packed my pillow, and I think I took some Ritz crackers, and I was out. And that's a good start to the story, because I left home again at 16.
Yeah.
And then I left home again probably when I was 18. And I was actually out for good that time. Well, when I say good, it wasn't for good. I spent a couple years on my own with some friends, met a girl, moved to Vancouver, went to school, came back, and, 20-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, just, bars are just opening up for me, drinking too much. She was a bit of a straight arrow, so she gave me an ultimatum. Says, if you go one more time and come home at 3, 4 in the morning, that's it. Mm-hmm. Next weekend, here we go.
Yeah.
Went to work, came home, empty house. Yeah. She took everything that that I wouldn't put up a fuss about. Left the TV, left the computer, left the couch.
Yeah.
But I had to go to like Dairy Queen and get some utensils and stuff. It was real bad.
Yeah.
And then met my wife. Actually, it's a funny story. I met my wife. I was working at Canadian Tire as a service advisor. Apparently, I was just a typical male, like, oh, you need your tires changed? One of those. I don't remember this. That she likes to
throw it in there?
Yeah. Throw it out there once in a while. Yeah. I remember this. No, sweetheart, I don't remember that. I love you, baby. And then I actually met her. I had actually gotten, I think it was like ulcers. It wasn't really diagnosed. I couldn't drink. Really bad heartburn. So I ended up being DD all the time.
Yeah.
One night we're out, and my friend Luke is out of control, and we're in the bar, and I can't find him. And so I'm searching through the bar, and I look over in the corner, and he's in this booth with these 2 girls. So I kind of wander over. I'm like, hey, I'm Shawn. How's it going? It's my friend Luke. I'm like, how's it going? Well, we've heard the same story about 3 or 4 times now. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So we sit down, the rest of us. Anyway, so that's how I met my wife. Tried to get her number that night. I was with another girl, Crystal, who's a really good friend of mine. She didn't give it to me, but she gave it to Crystal. But basically, right from then, I think that was March 19th, her 19th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after. And then we kind of hung out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was always something going on, as a 19, 20-year-old kid. So I was with her I was with her till she left in July. She left July 1st to go home. She was done school. July 15th, I moved to Alberta, and her mom took me in and said, I got a month to get my crap together and still have to start paying rent. Moved into my wife's mom's house and into a room, which was crazy for me, but yeah, and then about a month later, obviously I got a job and all that sort of stuff. So we lived in Medicine Hat for a few years. I'd say about a year and a half. And then a really good friend of mine that I went to school with on Vancouver Island phoned me up and said, hey, I'm moving to Red Deer. I need you to come up here and give me a hand moving in. It's like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
Don't care. I need your help. So we jumped in the car and drove up to Red Deer and helped him move in. And Dave, if you're listening, you still owe me for that stupid sectional up the 4 flights of stairs. Still cashing in on that one.
Yeah.
And then him and I stayed in touch, and he had a really good job. It's the same job I'm doing today. And he's like, man, you got to get up here. He's like, I'm making a killing up here. At that time I was a manager of a furniture warehouse, United Furniture Warehouse, making whatever, $600-700 every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I said, screw it, quit. And Amy and I moved. And that's when I started my career in the oil field, man. I was installing frac tools. They're called tree savers.
Okay.
So I did that for a couple of years, and man, good times. Like we saved and scraped, and I shouldn't say scraped. I mean, it was good money then. And she was working at a photography studio, and bought her first place. And then 4 years in, got married. And then that night, I took one of her bridesmaids aside and said, hey, I want you to throw away your birth control. We had been planning to have babies, but after we were married, so she did, which was a huge mistake, Nick. Don't ever take your girl off birth control pills middle of their massive mistake.
We live and learn.
One of those. So if you're listening, don't do it. She went through some hormone changes and lots of ups and downs. We didn't. And I think it took us about 4 or 5 months before we had our first son, or our only son, I guess. Then, about a year and a half later, we decided to start trying again. During that time, I'd actually left Oil States, which was Stinger at the time, owned by a gentleman named Murray Dallas. They were all over the world at that point. They got bought out by a company called the Oil States, which I now work for. But during that time I had left, and I went and I ran a nitrogen truck for about 8 months. What a nightmare that was, man. It was we did a lot of pigging and piping. But as soon as he put another guy in the truck, you were like, I'm not going to see you home for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He had this famous thing. We always had this map on the wall, and he'd go, hey, Shawn, come on over here. All right, now listen, I just need you to zip down to Milk River and just pump this quick job. Should be about 6 or 7 hours. And then, if you don't mind, just zip up to GP there, Grand Prairie, if you don't know, and pump that job. And then I think right after that we're gonna zip on down to Medicine Hat and pump this job. And it was like, so it's still like one of those things that my friends talk about. We're actually gonna zip on over there. It's only an 8-hour drive. Anyway, I did that for way too long, man. It was hell. And then I started, and the same guy, Dave Pembroke, he was running air trails. He's like, man, you got to come contracting and do this with me. It's like, it's a massive opportunity. You get exposure to rigs, you get exposure to pipeline facilities, everything. He's like, and we can just sit here and learn and just really figure out how this whole system works. And I was like, what an opportunity, man. I'm like, let's do it. So went contracting, did that for a couple of years, and then the kind of progression there is you run air trailers and you're almost like a safety guy. They call you a safety guy, but you're not. And then you kind of move into a safety gig. I don't know what's kind of like your progression from welding to inspecting. Yeah. So I kind of moved into that position. And during that time, man, I think Dave was a huge influence on my life. Hardworking, same thing, left home super young. And he just really took me along for the ride, to be honest with you. And I think even at one point, I think maybe, I don't know what year it was, but we tried to start our own gig because he had kind of had contracts on his own. He was, using other safety companies to fulfill, and I'd go and work for him and that sort of thing. But so we tried to start our own thing. Bad timing. I think it was like maybe 2007.
Oh,
yeah, real bad timing. So I spent about $30,000 just outfitting a trailer and trying to get all that stuff, and bad timing. So maybe it was earlier, It's so hard to tell the time when you get this old, I think, man. Anyway, so that was a bit of a flop, which sucked because we kind of sold the trailer and all the gear and stuff. And that was the very first time I tried to like kind of go it on my own and do something for myself. Well, ourselves, I guess, at the time. But I learned a lot of things along the way, which I think is super important. And then, I mean, after that, we kind of moved into safety positions. So I ended up working with Synovus for years. First it was just winter projects. And then you know how it progresses. You get a winter project and then they like you, they kind of carry you forward. So they carried me forward. I worked for them for quite a few years. I took care of 6 or 7 drilling rigs and then all the earthworks, which is like the building of the roads and the pads and that sort of thing. And then, you got to kind of moonlight a little bit in facilities and learn a bunch of that stuff. So it was really eye-opening, man. It was great. And then about 2012, the next kind of little dip, I was in northern Saskatchewan doing a project way up north. Literally, I got a picture and I can still see it to this day. Me and Josh. There's nothing at the end of this road. Literally, the sign just says that.
Yeah.
And you kind of turn off and we were helicoptered in and out. It was pretty cool. I was driving home from that project, and Doug, who's my boss now, phones me and says, "I hear you done your project." And just back up a little bit, his older brother was the best man at my wedding.
Okay.
And now his brother runs the international part of Oil States International in Canada here. And I was like, yeah, I just finished. He's like, well, what do you think about Saudi Arabia? Shit, Doug, I've never thought about Saudi Arabia. It's like, well, would you like to go?
Yeah.
And this is on a Friday. I said, can you give me like 2 days?
Yeah.
Sure. And I said, I'll call you Monday. I can still remember the date, April 6th. Phone him. Yeah, Doug, go. Perfect. April 26th, got on a plane. Not knowing anything. Just got on a plane, didn't know what to pack, didn't know what to expect. I mean, back then, man, you were still kind of getting all that noise about, terrorists and all that sort of thing, which is not true. In Saudi Arabia, anyways, a fantastic place, fantastic people, do anything for you. I can still remember this other story. I left about $500 in their currency, which is called rial, in a truck. I didn't leave it. I just dropped it in my pocket. I called that night. I'm like, hey, I left $500 in your truck. Oh, yeah. Joe Blow, whoever it was, Mohammed, whatever, turned it in for you.
Wow.
Right?
That doesn't happen over here.
No. Yeah. So that was
gone.
Yeah, never to be seen again. So that was a really cool experience. So that's kind of like, and then I spent about 10 or 11 years over there. I was in Dubai, actually, and my wife phoned me. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and a brick had gone through my front window of my house. And my wife's always been really supportive of all my decisions. She's an amazing woman. She is very supportive. She just said to me, she said, I need you to come home. And yeah, she never said that to me before, like ever. So it was like, it was pretty emotional. And it was like, okay, I'll be there. I phoned my boss. I said, listen, I got to go. And he's like, what's going on? I said, my family needs me. So I booked all my own flights, did all my own stuff, got on a plane, flew home. And I spent about 1.5 years home. Some other stuff had happened, family stuff and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually ended up working in a mill for quite a bit, which was pretty cool, man. It's like one, resource industry to another. Quite different, obviously, but same ups and downs as the oil industry. So it was cool to learn that. I spent about 1 year there, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that 8 to 5 grind, Nick. It was I was working nights too, but I'd always, that time off was so precious to me. So going from like having a month off at a time to just trying to figure out how to work within hours that you don't really have, that you still need to sleep. I couldn't do it.
No.
So I phoned my boss again and said, hey, can I come back? Absolutely, he said.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And then gone again.
That's really interesting that on this side, and that's why a lot of guys on the pipeline facility side, when you leave a job in that context, man, so many times you're blackballed. You don't like to see it, and it has been changing, but back in the day, that would have never happened. It's very rare, I will say, very rare.
He's a good man. Yeah. He understood. He didn't question me. He said, I said, my family needs me. He said, okay, Shawn, get home.
Yeah.
That was it. I booked the flights. I did everything. They paid for everything. They gave me 2 months leave, just unpaid, of course, to try and get my stuff figured out. Couldn't get it figured out in time. Yeah. So I said, Shawn, I'm sorry. I kind of gotta, I mean, we're still a company to run here. You gotta make a decision. So obviously I made the decision to stay home and kind of get that kind of under wraps. And yeah, it was super emotional. And I mean, that was crazy, man.
So being home after being gone for that long and working that way, so that transition point from dealing with your stuff to then taking the job at the mill, how did that go when you inserted yourself back into the family dynamic? And then what made you choose the mill out of everything that you could have done?
So the transition, I mean, it took a little longer, obviously, to transition into everything. And to be honest, I never did, man.
Yeah.
I never did. I mean, I worked from 11 till 7 in the morning. And during that time, I started another company. So I would work my shift. I would kind of get home at 7. I'd get everyone off to school and work. And then I'd work on a company that, I worked on that company every day till, noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then I still got to sleep, right? So I never really transitioned. I think what I was doing was, and we've talked about this before, right?
Well, it's a huge transfer of addiction is one thing because you're used to one thing, and then it's your worth. You tie your worth and your identity to your job. 100%. So when you don't have that, you'll fill that with whatever to try to fill that void, and it can be sketchy when you're doing that. So it felt like to me it seems like you were just trying to fill that void with whatever you could, and thinking that you're doing the right thing for your family, but you weren't fulfilled in doing it. That's why you wanted more, to try to get that feeling, because it's a high when you're managing those projects or dealing with those projects and they're high profile and there's lots going on. You get a very high sense of worth in doing that, right? And then working 8 to 5, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is those few of us that just we don't have it in us. That's what forced me to make the change. When we were going to have the kid, or my daughter, our firstborn, to go on my own, was because that 8 to 4, I don't know if I worked 2 extra hours, maybe I would have, it just didn't feel like it was enough. Like you literally show up there and then we're done. It's like, what? Or the day draws on because you're not doing fulfilling work.
Yeah.
So trying to fill that, with fulfilling, and everybody, that's different for everybody else. We all have our things that we're drawn to and why we gravitate to certain positions. So it's really interesting, So you at the mill, how do you think you were depressed working there after that time, or just not fulfilled?
I think that there's and it's this image I have, man, and it was not too far into maybe like week 3 or week 4. So as mills are in 8-hour shifts.
Yeah.
I think it's different now, but it's in an 8-hour shift. So 11 to 7, 7 till... I guess it would be 8 till 4, 4 till 12. So those are the kind of shifts. So I have this image, and I'm walking out of the mill, and there's this, he must have been, 60 maybe, and he's got his metal lunchbox, his work boots on, and just looks old as shit, man. And you could tell he's not happy to be there. And that was the real point where I was like, this is, like, I have to do this, or at least I thought I had to do this to be home.
Yeah.
Also, the night shift was the most money.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I took it. But I have this image, and I can still see it clear as day right now. It's this old guy, and he's got literally it's a blue metal lunchbox. He's walking in, work boots are kind of half done up, and he ain't happy to be there, man.
No.
And that was like my real, like, I can't do this. This is not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and there is times when we need to do the things because that's what needs to be done.
At that time.
And at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's taking that to the next level. I just heard it this morning, actually, where there's a time to pray and there's a time to take action. And at some point, you're praying that you're doing the right thing, taking that delivery job or whatever it is to pay the bills. That needs to happen at some point in our lives. And at various stages, that looks different. But it's making that decision to move forward and take that big leap, because that's not what you're called to do.
100%. Going back to working at the mill and not being fulfilled, starting the company and kind of working on that throughout the day, and then I would sleep till everyone's going to bed. I think that's and previous to that, being overseas and coming home for that month and not really knowing where you fit in and all those things that come with being away for a long time and spending the time in the garage, drink a beer or golf trips with your buddies, or just because you don't want to not fit in, or you don't want to not be able to feel all that stuff, or you don't know how to feel all that stuff, so you don't. You hide it and whatever. So I think, like, looking back, that's all I was doing. Just filling my day with something else so I didn't have to feel everything.
And now that you're aware of that, and we've talked about it multiple times, how do you think you would articulate that now?
How would I? You mean like if I was,
to your spouse, to your kids? Like, okay, that event happened. The brick got thrown through. You came to transition out. You were gone for a very long time, and now you're back in the mix now for, well, it's supposed to be 2 months. That was the transition. Okay, be like, how would you tell them how you were feeling now to move forward with that relationship and that dynamic? How would you do it now differently?
Oh man, I would do it so much different. I think that over the few years, I've learned so many tools, and it's all about communication, man. We talked about this last podcast, is coming home. I mean, in this case, it was a little bit different because it was like a rush. Like, I need you home, come home, figure everything out when you get there.
Yeah.
But now it's like having those conversations and being able to respect that I was just gone for a month or two, and your life continued. My life did too, but I was working to provide and do all these things. But you're not in the same spot that you were when I left.
Yeah.
I need to know where you're at now. So open and honest communication. What do you need? How can I support you?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for every member of the family. Kids are a little bit harder because they don't articulate very well, right?
Especially teenagers. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what I got. 15 to 17-year-olds, so it's great. It is great, but it's, you know what I mean? Like, it can be challenging. So having those conversations with them, like, and I think maybe some of it's being in daily contact. It's not always on the offshore rigs. We don't get a lot of contact. You can't have a cell phone. You can't have a camera. You can have a cell phone, I shouldn't say that. You know what I mean? So you can't have those kinds of meaningful conversations on there. So sometimes you're kind of out of communication. I've been in places where you don't get communication for a week or two. Mm-hmm. So by disconnecting, and I think you've alluded to this before, you're protecting yourself from all of that hurt, all of that feeling, those things that you need to feel, but you need to do that so that you can provide for your family. Mm-hmm. So I think now, like I said, we have those communication lines. It's very open, it's very honest, and it has to be very honest just to be able to for both of us.
Yeah.
So that transition period is gone. We get to have that quality time for that entire time we're home versus that 7 to 10 to, sometimes it's 14 days, and then you're just getting used to it, and then it's time to go.
Time to go. Do you think with like the new things, like, well, I say new, but FaceTime and all the video chats and everything, how many conversations did you have in the past? Because I know the answer from me. How many conversations were so much, oh, how was your day? Like when you did talk every day or were able to. How was your day? Good. How was your day? Good. How are the kids doing? Good. And that conversation would happen day after day after day because you didn't want to tell her anything that was going on, but to a point that you wanted to tell her or could tell her if you were able to articulate that. Yeah, it changes the game when you can talk with purpose and intent, because if you guys both, and I say this to our relationship that I had with my ex-wife, was if I was able to have those conversations of we have a goal and how did we move ahead this week towards that. Even doing the work that we're doing, gone and whatever, there's daily progression that you can make by setting yourself up for the future. If you don't have those conversations, like if you added those types of things in, not so much how you're feeling or whatever, but if you're able to talk about the future and the moves that you're both making so that you're moving in the right direction, how would that change that dynamic if you started that from day one?
Oh, man, I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, right.
Man, having those tools in your toolbox would have been amazing. Living with purpose, living with intent on a daily basis versus, 40 days going by, surface level, conversations.
Yeah.
I can't imagine where a person or a relationship would be.
Oh.
It's mind-blowing.
It is. It is mind-blowing, and I'll go back to mine because that's what I know, and maybe yours was similar back when, but it could be different. Like us, we didn't talk about the future. It was just the day, here and now. What do we need to do to survive? We bought this big house. I kept buying the bigger and badder trucks, the shinier the better, the bigger the badder, motorcycles, whatever they needed to do. Let's build custom choppers in 2009 when the world's in a recession, but we didn't know it was because we don't follow anything. And just a disaster. But if we had a future, hey, this is where we want to live, this is how we want to live, whether that's on a beach or in the mountains, if you want a condo in downtown Vancouver because that's what it is, it doesn't matter what that end goal is, but this is what we want to do. I don't know too many people who have those conversations. I do know more of those people now because I've surrounded myself with them, and again, back to the community, that's what we're trying to promote and cultivate, is those types of conversations. But personally, I didn't know why I was making money. I just knew we needed to make money to survive, and that I knew the kids needed to go to college one day, and eventually maybe I want to retire. So that was the goal. It seems pretty fucking general to me.
It's super general, man, and it's I never had those conversations, Nick, just so you know, you weren't alone. And I don't know anybody back then that did. And I think you're right. I think now I've surrounded myself with people that are looking for the future. They're not just trying to survive. They have a goal. They have daily goals, weekly goals, whatever that looks like. I have this vision, and it helps me when I'm meditating. It's and I can see it even now. It's a pair of glass sliding doors. My wife is sitting on a couch, laying on a couch, relaxing, reading a book. That part doesn't matter so much, but it's what she's doing. I mean, all that matters is that she's there. And I open them and I step onto my balcony and it's ocean or water. And that's us. That's everyday grind. That's the gem at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
So how we get there is is the goal, is every day, right? Is the end of the month, it's the end of the week. It's like, how did we move it this far?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned to live, and I've learned to teach, is that the goal is something audacious, and it's out there, and it moves you forward, or it helps you move you forward, but until you can reverse engineer that back to what has to happen today, and in the next 90 days, and in the next year, things can move and shift over that time. But at least we talked about this before we started recording, was now you're in a place where you're moving with intent, and feel like you're in control, when really, are we in control? But that gives you that
Purpose.
sense of purpose that, yeah, I'm controlling what I can control right now, which is essentially my emotions and my actions and my reactions, and everything else is just noise. But if you're moving in that one direction, it helps you. It's like a boat where if you see the lighthouse, and this is where we're going. That's why they're there, is so that you can stay on track. And if you don't have that lighthouse, and you don't have that support system now that keeps you pushing in that same direction when you're rowing, you'll just go off into the ether and just end up wherever.
Yeah, we call it the guiding star.
Yeah.
Or the North Star.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it's massive, man, and it's something that we both look forward to.
Yeah.
So it's something that's really easy to we talk about, and how we're going to do those steps. So it's that's our North Star, man.
It's really good. Yeah, it's something that I'm now with new relationships, because we're dating in this new world when you're divorced and all the things. Yeah, it's wild. It intimidates a lot of people when you start talking like this when you're dating, because people aren't conditioned to these types of thoughts and ways of looking at things. And it is tough. I believe I found one now. We'll see at the time of this. Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to that, is because we can have these types of conversations. So for you and your wife to have those years ago and realize that's why you're there today. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a smart lady.
Yeah.
She's been a solid rock and kept me out of the trenches more than once. Jail cells, whatever.
It's very interesting. And she's been through there, pretty much everything that from start to finish, right?
Yeah, I think we got together when I was early 20s. She was only 19.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, she's a good girl, man. Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. Yeah, there's lots of things. I think we talk a little bit about mentors and stuff. My buddy Dave, like I said, he was probably one. Guided me through a lot of stuff. I never searched for one back then. Now I have mentors in all these different places: financial, family, business. These guys that I can go to, and it's as easy as having a beer or not having a beer, and just a bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And they have so much to teach, man. And to go back to the last podcast where you're talking about, is like they want you to ask questions because they want to share that stuff.
Want to know? Yeah, I legit, it's not name drop, but he's one of the dragons. So I've been talking back and forth with one of his number 2, and I hit him up for coaching or mentoring. I said, I don't know if you do this or not, but I'm putting it out there because every time we've met, I've just had a vibe with him, and I thought we had a vibe, or I think we do. And he answers my phone call whenever I make it, which is incredible. So. Yeah, it's putting that out there, and I said, I don't know if you do this or not, but I'm going to ask you anyways. And he said, if you're coming to me as that, he said, the first thing I will say is absolutely, as a potential coach and mentor, you ask that question every time.
Yeah.
It's up to me to say yes or no. But he said most of my mentoring that I do is these types of conversations. Like, you call me, we'll go for a coffee, you tell me where we're at. Like, I haven't charged for this stuff yet. I'm thinking of getting more into it. But the point there is ask the questions. if you have a connection to somebody or feel like it might be one-sided, but you don't know unless you ask that question. It's like, man, I got a good vibe from you. You seem like an intelligent person. I would like to have more entertaining conversations with you. Would you mind if I phone you if I have something going on? Yeah, I usually pay for people for their time, but it doesn't always need to be that way.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, like, part of this community is going to be that, right? Like, it's being part of this One More Boom community is hopefully going to connect a lot of people that have those connections, and they'll get past that surface level. How was your day? They'll get into the nitty gritty with each other, and feel comfortable. And it'll be so cool to watch members of the community mentor and teach other members of the community. Maybe some knows lots about business, or maybe one knows more about family, or just ideas. Like, you and I bounce things off each other all the time.
Yeah.
It's super cool. And one thing that I love, and I think it was you that said it, is like, when my wife comes to me at the end of the day, and I'm sure lots of people have heard this, it's like, I need you to tell me, do you want advice? Do you want me to help you solve this? Or do you just want me to listen?
Yeah.
And that has changed. Because as men, we just want to fix things.
You want to fix everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
If you're having a problem at work, you want me to go there and talk to her for you? No, Shawn.
Yeah.
We're fixers.
Yeah, we are fixers. No, it's really good. No, I'm really glad that we got to learn a little more about you today. And we got lots of conversation, or we've had lots of conversations, but somehow you usually ask more questions about me and what's going on. So it's good. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you don't want to let everything out of the bag, which is, but it's, no, I appreciate you for opening up today, and it's really good.
Yeah, I will tell you a little bit something why that is like that. I was very introverted as a kid.
Yeah.
I read a book about how to not be introverted because I felt like it was something that was holding me back. And what the book said, I mean, there's lots of things that the book said, but one of them was just like, continue to ask questions.
Yeah.
People love to talk.
Yeah.
And what it does is it opens up more questions. And I love learning. So, like, learning about you, I want to learn about what you do, how you do it, why you do it. Well, what's the Nick behind the Nick? You know what I mean? Or some version of that, or whatever that looks like. So that's where that actually all stems from. And it's something that's still in the back of my head even now when we have conversations, or I have conversations with anyone.
Yeah.
Just ask more questions. And it kind of opens up, and it also kind of tells you where that person's at, and if you're going to jive.
Yeah. It's more than just the surface level. It's huge. We can hide a lot of things, especially nowadays with texting and all the other stuff. There's no context behind it. You don't hear someone's voice when it crackles because they're lying or they're hiding something, or it's very, man, we can do a lot with the digital age these days. So it's very interesting. So,
yeah, and I love it too, because if anyone that texts me, they know I got like a 3 to 5 text maximum before I'm calling you.
Yeah.
Because I just can't do it. I need to hear the emotion of voice. For me, for connection wise, this texting stuff, it just doesn't do it. I mean, send me a voice note even, which you do on a regular basis, which is super cool. I need that for a connection, and I can't feel that connection without it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. No, it's good. I'm glad to sit down today and learn more, and I'm sure we'll unpack the onion a little more, or unpeel the onion a little more as we move along.
It's pretty quick, and I kind of jumped over a lot of stuff, but it's that's the cliff notes.
Yeah, no, this is great. So the next time we talk to you, you're going to be overseas, so we will do this virtually. So it doesn't matter as long as the audio is there and we get the information out to the people. That's good.
Yeah, we'll get this community started and hopefully help some people, man.
Oh, it's very good. All right, man. Well, travel safe.
Always.
And we'll see you soon.
See you on the flip side.